Welcome to the debate. You look at a bank account, you see a deposit for $25,000, and human nature just dictates a very specific reaction.
Oh, yeah. You think we won.
Right, exactly. That feeling of seeing a massive check hit the account is incredible. But in the construction and roofing industry, it's largely an illusion.
It really is. Today we're arguing over a simple but honestly brutal premise from our source material. And that premise is that revenue is dangerous when you don't understand your job costs.
Yeah, it's a brilliant provocation, isn't it? Revenue is dangerous. It really forces anyone running a business to completely reevaluate how they actually survive.
Absolutely. I mean, we are so conditioned to gross revenue because it feels definitive. It looks like success on a spreadsheet, you know?
Right, but the second you step onto a job site, that definitive number just vanishes. We are looking at a financial landscape that is exceptionally deceptive. So, the central question we are debating today is really about where the value of a system lies.
Right. Does a professional job costing system primarily get its value from micro-level margin protection, meaning managing the chaotic, hidden, everyday realities of individual project costs? Or, on the flip side, is its true transformative power found in macro-level operational control, using that aggregate data to strategically scale the company?
I'm taking the micro level stance here. I look at this model, and to me, it's a survival manual for the micro level.
And I'll be taking the macro-level stance. Because while tracking individual jobs is absolutely unnecessary, mechanical function, the true value of modern system integration is macro-level strategic scaling.
Well, let me lay out my position first. You have to track the granular, hidden costs of every single project. Because if you don't, that $25,000 roof quietly becomes a massive financial liability. It is fundamentally a battle of attrition fought $50 at a time.
Okay, but it's about building a business, not just auditing a single roof. It is about building real-time visibility to identify systemic trends across your sales reps, your crews, and your neighborhoods to prevent catastrophic operational failure.
I see why you emphasize the macro. I really do. But let's look at the reality of this industry. The underlying argument here is that in construction, revenue isn't an asset.
Well, not initially, no.
Right. Until the job is completely done and the final check clears, revenue is actually a liability. You're basically just holding the customer's money while your costs act like a ticking time bomb.
A ticking time bomb is a bit dramatic, don't you think?
I really don't. Think about how a roofer's margin actually works. Let's say you have a 10% net profit margin on that $25,000 roof. Your actual take-home profit is only $2,500.
Which sounds great until Thursday morning rolls around.
Exactly. Thursday morning, reality starts. Let's say your supplier raises the cost of shingles mid-month by just $500.
Yeah, which happens.
They didn't just cost you $500. They just wiped out 20% of your total profit for that entire project in one single stroke.
Wow, yeah. When you put it like that,
And then add in the other granular threats we see every day, right? Labor overruns because the decking was rotten under the old roof. Extra accessories are suddenly needed.
or the dumpster exceeds its weight limit.
Yes, you get hit with a fee, permits add unexpected cost. Every single one of those is a microscopic leak. If you aren't protecting that specific $2,500 margin from those specific leaks, the gross revenue means absolutely nothing.
Okay, that's a brutal reality. And I mean, I don't disagree with the math, but have you considered that you are describing a defense mechanism rather than a growth engine?
A defense mechanism is how you survive, though.
Sure, I acknowledge the pain of a $500 dumpster overage. But my position is that you can't build a sustainable organization if leadership is trapped in the microscopic details of every single shingle.
But they have to be tracked.
Tracked, yes, but roofing companies do not fail from a lack of sales. The material clearly states they fail from a lack of operational control.
Right, operational control, which means tracking the costs.
But if the problem was just individual leaky roofs, a highly efficient sales engine could theoretically outpace the losses. True operational control means understanding which sales reps are consistently profitable, which crews generate the most callbacks.
But wait, let me stop you there. Are you saying the neighborhood data or the sales rep data? has any actual value without the microscopic receipt data.
No, I'm saying the purpose.
Because you can't have aggregate intelligence without microscopic accuracy. You just can't.
No, I agree, but I'm saying the purpose of collecting the receipt data is to generate the aggregate intelligence. You're hyper-focusing on the single dumpster overage, but the ultimate goal is scaling the company.
I just think you can't scale if you're bleeding out $50 at a time.
Let's ground this in what eliminating departmental silos actually looks like on, say, a Tuesday afternoon. Eliminating silos just means the guy selling the roof on an iPad knows that the supplier just raised the price of nails before he prints the contract for the homeowner.
Okay, yes, that is helpful.
It's vital. When sales doesn't talk to production and production doesn't talk to invoicing, the business fragments. The connected workflow itself is the operational control.
I hear you.
It completely supersedes the need to manage microfailures project by project because it prevents them from being sold at a loss in the very first place.
That's an interesting point, though. I would definitely frame it differently. The ability to identify that a neighborhood is a bad investment, maybe because it has strict permit costs or difficult terrain that constantly causes labor overruns, that is merely a byproduct.
A very valuable byproduct. Sure, but you don't know the neighborhood is bad until your system meticulously logs those permit costs and labor overruns on the individual roofs. You are prioritizing the symptom over the cure.
Am I? Or am I just looking at the whole patient?
The cure is the rigorous, granular tracking. If the purchase order for those extra Thursday morning accessories isn't tied directly to the final invoice for that specific $25,000 roof, your macro data is poisoned.
It's not about prioritizing the symptom, though. It's about automating the cure so you can actually focus on the health of the patient.
But you can't automate physical labor and material costs.
You automate the tracking of it. If I use the system to identify that a specific neighborhood has historically terrible margins, I can direct my sales team to stop knocking on doors in that neighborhood altogether.
Right, sure. I don't have to fight the battle of attrition on those roofs because I've made the strategic macro-level decision not to build them at all. That's the power of the system.
Okay, I'm not convinced you can ever fully automate the physical reality of a construction site. But this actually brings up a crucial piece of the puzzle, which is the timeline.
Oh, the timeline is everything.
Exactly. The timeline here is what makes this so urgent. There's this pervasive idea out there that you can just reconcile the books at the end of the month and see how the business is doing.
Which is a disaster.
Right. If you wait until the end of the month to understand your profitability, you are already too late.
Completely agree. Waiting until the end of the month is like performing a financial autopsy instead of monitoring a live pulse.
Why are you too late at the end of the month?
Well,
It's because the labor overruns have already happened. The dumpster fees on that specific project in week 1 have already been paid out. Managing a roofing company without real-time job costing is like driving a car where the dashboard only tells you your speed from yesterday,
That's a good analogy.
right? Sure, you were going 60 miles an hour yesterday, but you don't know you're currently out of gas until the engine stalls today. The urgency is entirely tied to the lifespan of an individual project.
But see, that's
If you aren't tracking in real time, the money is physically gone.
I love the car dashboard analogy, I really do. But let me twist it slightly. If you're driving that car and the dashboard tells you you're out of gas, you pull over.
Right. You survive.
Yes, that's a micro-level action. But what if the dashboard tells you that every time you drive on a specific highway, your fuel efficiency drops by 40%?
Okay, I see where you're going.
That's a macro insight. And that changes how you plan your routes entirely. Let's look at the systemic risk of something like callbacks.
Oh, callbacks are brutal.
For anyone listening who isn't in the weeds of production, a callback is when a customer calls you after the job is supposed to be done because something is wrong. A leak around a skylight, missing flashing, whatever it is.
And it is the most margin-destroying event imaginable.
Exactly. Now, if a specific crew is consistently doing poor work that generates callbacks, and you wait 30 days to run your spreadsheets to realize your labor costs are spiking, what has happened in the meantime?
They've messed up a lot of roofs.
Right. That flawed crew hasn't just ruined the margin on one roof. They have been deployed on 20 other jobs. You haven't just lost $500, you have multiplied the systemic damage across your entire production schedule.
Well,
You are too late because the operational disease has spread. The real-time visibility is necessary to stop the bleeding across the aggregate, not just to salvage the profit on one house.
Okay, I see the logic there, but you're abstracting away from the cash flow realities of the individual job. You talk about systemic disease, but let's talk about supplements.
Supplements are a perfect example.
They are, and for anyone not living and breathing this every day, a supplement is basically just money you're owed by the insurance company for extra materials or labor that wasn't in the original estimate.
Right. You tear off the old roof, you find rotten plywood, you replace it.
And you bill the insurance company for the difference.
But it's a highly specific project-bound event.
Exactly my point. It is tied to one house, one policy, one roof. If that supplement is delayed in processing and you don't have real-time visibility into that specific job's cash flow, the company is floating that cost.
Sure, temporarily.
But you paid for the plywood and you haven't been reimbursed. Now let's borrow your math. Multiply that by 20 jobs. The pulse of the company flatlines, not because of a grand strategic error by leadership, but because microscopic details, 20 individual delayed supplements, were not tracked project by project.
Okay, but
Real-time tracking exists, so a production manager can pick up the phone today, call the insurance adjuster, and free up the cash for that specific roof. That isn't scaling. That is pure micro-level survival.
you just proved my point.
How so?
You said multiply that by 20 jobs. The moment you start multiplying, you are stepping into the macro. A system that shows you 20 delayed supplements at once isn't just a micromanager's checklist.
It kind of is, though.
No, it's a cash flow dashboard. It tells the owner, hey, we have a systemic bottleneck in our supplement approval process. Maybe we need to hire a dedicated supplement specialist.
Or just make the phone calls.
Or maybe our initial estimates are consistently inaccurate. The best companies use this data to understand which job types create the best cash flow. That is a macro-level insight derived from the aggregate behavior of those specific supplements.
Okay, I'll concede that seeing 20 delayed supplements gives you a systemic insight. I'll give you that. But the action required to fix it remains microscopic.
Does it, though?
Yes, you still have to make 20 phone calls to 20 different adjusters. You can't just flip a macro switch and get the cash.
Fair enough. The execution is granular, but the decision-making is strategic.
Which leads us directly into our final area of tension today. And that's the tension between protecting your margin and actually scaling the business.
Right. The million-dollar question.
The ultimate synthesis we're looking at in the material is that the goal is protecting margin while scaling the company. And I argue that scaling is mathematically and physically impossible without first achieving microscopic perfection on your estimated versus actual costs.
Oh, wow. Microscopic perfection is a very high bar in construction.
It is, but it's the required bar. Think about it. If you try to scale a company that naturally leaks money on extra accessories, unbudgeted dumpsters, and missed permits, you aren't scaling a successful business.
You're scaling a mess.
You are simply scaling your losses. If you lose $500 on every job due to sloppy tracking, doing 100 more jobs next year just means you lose $50,000 faster.
Okay, yes, growth in a leaky system accelerates bankruptcy.
Exactly. The foundational prerequisite to scaling is the micro-level defense. You have to prove you can hold on to the profit of one roof before you earn the right to build 1,000 of them.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that you need perfection before you scale. Let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
The reason modern roofing contractors implement these interconnected systems is exactly so ownership can step back from demanding microscopic perfection from themselves.
Stepping back sounds dangerous.
If an owner or a general manager is obsessing over a single dumpster fee on a Tuesday afternoon, they are fundamentally not scaling the company. They've bought themselves a very stressful job. They haven't built a business.
Well, someone has to obsess over it, or the margin completely disappears.
Yes, but the system obsesses over it. The integrated workflow, connecting the sales app to the production calendar to the purchase orders and the invoices, it automates the defense.
But human error.
It creates guardrails. It frees up the cognitive load of the organization. By looking at the dashboard and understanding which sales reps are actually profitable, not just who brings in the most top-line revenue, but who actually prices jobs correctly, the company scales by leaning into its most efficient vectors.
So you just ignore the dumpster fee.
You don't ignore it. You play strategic offense. You double down on the high-margin neighborhoods, and you promote the high-performing reps,
rather than the owner spending all their energy playing whack-a-mole with material cost increases on a single job.
Okay, that's a compelling vision of the future, I admit. But have you considered that you can never truly step back from the physical reality of the product?
What do you mean?
A roof is not a digital software product. You can't just write code and scale it to 1 million users with zero marginal cost.
Obviously not.
Right. It requires physical materials, trucks, weather, and physical labor. Material costs increase. That is an external, volatile reality that attacks every single job differently.
Sure, weather and materials are volatile.
A supplier raises the price of shingles, or fuel prices spike and delivery fees double. The system must catch that microvariance on the very next purchase order, or the margin is gone.
Yes, but strategic offense is a luxury for the few. Micro-level defense against material increases and labor overruns is an everyday necessity for survival for the many.
It is a necessity, yes, but it is not the transformative power of the technology. A disconnected manual spreadsheet can theoretically catch a material increase if a project manager is diligent enough to type it in every single day.
True. What a disconnected spreadsheet cannot do is prevent operational failure at scale. The transformation happens when the entire company is operating inside one unified workflow.
Right, the system.
When the sales rep quoting the $25,000 roof can see the real-time material costs updated by the production team before they even hand the customer the contract. That cross-departmental visibility, that elimination of the silos we talked about, is a macro-level achievement. You move from managing roofs to managing a business.
All right, I see your point. The connectivity itself and the network effect within the company is a macro feature.
Exactly.
But I still maintain that the payload traveling across that network is purely micro-level data. The system is only as good as its ability to meticulously track every single commission dollar, every single permit fee, and every single box of nails.
Well, data integrity matters, yes.
If the data entry at the granular level is flawed, the macro dashboard is just a high-definition picture of a lie.
And I maintain that once you aggregate thousands of those microscopic data points, you create a new layer of intelligence entirely. A single box of nails is a cost. 10,000 boxes of nails across 5 different crews is a supply chain insight.
Well, this has been a deeply illuminating back and forth. And I think it brings us to a point where we should summarize where we've landed.
Let's do it.
My stance remains rooted in the stark reality that revenue is inherently deceptive. I argue that a truly integrated system serves as a manual for granular survival.
Right, the micro defense.
Yes, its greatest value is ensuring that the theoretical paper profit of a $25,000 roof survives the harsh physical realities of labor overruns, material increases, and dumpster fees. The system is fundamentally a microscopic defense mechanism against the daily attrition of construction.
And my summary is that these systems are ultimately blueprints for growth. While I fully acknowledge the brutal necessity of job-by-job tracking, you have to do it, I assert that moving away from obsolete, disconnected silos provides the macro-level visibility necessary to scale. By understanding the aggregate performance of crews, reps, and neighborhoods, leadership achieves true operational control. They stop playing defense on individual roofs and start playing offense to scale a resilient company.
I think it is very clear we have a strong area of convergence here. We both fully agree on the foundational principle from the text. Revenue is dangerous when you don't understand job cost. That is non-negotiable.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
And we both agree that the era of disconnected spreadsheets and manual tracking is and must be completely over.
Absolutely. The danger of top-line thinking is a shared baseline. Where we actually disagree is whether the primary focus, the true heartbeat of these systems, should be on granular defense, protecting the individual roof.
Or strategic offense, scaling through operational visibility.
Right.
Indeed. Looking at operational systems through both a microscopic and macroscopic lens really reveals just how incredibly complex a seemingly straightforward business can be.
It really does.
There is certainly much more to explore here, particularly regarding the specific mechanics of connecting those purchase orders and invoices into a single workflow without, creating massive bureaucratic friction for the team on the ground.
Yes, the actual mechanics of that integration could be a discussion entirely on their own. I mean, it requires a tremendous amount of discipline to maintain data integrity while slowing down the very production you're trying to track.
It absolutely does. Well, we leave it to you, the listener, to form your own conclusion about the true driver of scaling a professional business.
Think about it next time you look at the books.
Exactly. The next time you see a massive top-line number, a $25,000 deposit that makes you want to celebrate, remember the illusion. Remember that managing a business without real-time job costing is like driving down the highway looking at yesterday's dashboard.
Just make sure you're also checking the GPS so you aren't driving perfectly efficiently in the completely wrong direction.
Well said. Thank you for joining us.